My name is Desmond Meade, and I am the Executive Director of Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. In August of 2005, I found myself standing in front of railroad tracks in South Florida, waiting on a train to come so I can jump in front of it. That day, I was homeless, I was addicted to drugs, I was recently released from prison, I was unemployed, and the only thing I owned were the clothes on my back. I didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. I didn't have any hope for a brighter future. And so I stood there waiting on that train. Thankfully, that train never came. And so I eventually crossed the tracks and I checked myself in the substance abuse treatment facility. After completing that, I moved into a homeless shelter. While living at the homeless shelter, I decided to do something to raise my self-esteem, something that would allow me to not use drugs again. And so I enrolled in a local community college to a paralegal program. Did extremely well, and I was encouraged to continue my education. And so I pursued a bachelor's degree with a concentration in public safety management and criminal justice. Graduating with highest honors, I was eventually accepted into law school. And in May of 2014, I graduated with a law degree from Florida International University College of Law. However, at that time, because I lived in Florida, in spite of the fact that I was able to overcome so many obstacles to eventually graduate law school, I still couldn't practice law because I had a previous felony conviction. And in Florida at the time, once a person is convicted of a felony offense, they lost their civil rights, including the right to vote for the rest of their life. And so in 2016, when my wife ran for office, even though I may have dedicated my life to community service, even though I may have overcome insurmountable obstacles, I, as an American citizen, still could not even vote for my wife. My story is the story of over 1.4 million Floridians who have committed felony offenses but have served their time and want nothing more than just to move on with their lives and be a part of our democracy. We could not have sit idly by and let four politicians decide which American citizen get to vote and which don't get to vote. And so we launched a citizens initiative to restore voting rights to people after they've completed their sentence. That citizens initiative was Amendment 4. And on November of 2018, we the citizens, a grassroots movement, successfully passed Amendment 4, which re-enfranchised over 1.4 million Floridians. Now, over 1.4 million Floridians have an access to be able to participate in democracy, to be able to determine the type of education their children are getting, to be able to determine the direction of this country. Immediately after we passed Amendment 4, Florida legislature enacted laws that required people like me to pay outstanding fines and fees and legal obligations before we're able to register to vote. Organizations such as the ACLU, the Brennan Center for Justice and Legal Defense Fund, as well as Southern Poverty Law Center, filed a lawsuit against the state of Florida and its governor, saying that these outstanding fines and fees was akin to a poll tax. We actually won the case in the Northern District of Florida, where a judge ruled that these fines and fees were in fact a poll tax and that being poor should never be an obstacle to the ballot box. Well, that victory was short-lived because the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals just recently reversed the lower court's decision and ruled that anyone that owes any outstanding fines and fees or other legal financial obligations would not be allowed to register to vote until they're satisfied. But that won't stop us, but we're going to continue to move forward. And my organization, the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, 100% committed to ensuring that every one of the 1.4 million American citizens that was impacted by Amendment 4 have a pathway to engage in our democracy. Look, here's why this is very important for the entire country, and not just the state of Florida. Nothing speaks more to citizenship than being able to vote. And when you step inside of that voting booth, you have just as much power as the richest person in the world. You have just as much power as the richest person in the United States because of one man, one woman, one vote. And so when we talk about voting rights, when we talk about access to democracy, every American citizen should have the opportunity to participate. This issue is personally important to me because as a returning citizen, I've known for so many years our voices have been silenced. For so many years, we've been made to feel like outcasts in our society and that our voices didn't count and we were not allowed to vote. But I want to share a story with you to show the impact of what Amendment 4 means to people like me. As we was canvassing the community the other day, we ran across a young lady who was given 6 months to live by her doctor. And as she was filling out her voter registration form, she started crying and talking about how for over 24 years, she's been trying to get her rights restored and didn't think that it would ever happen because of a felony conviction and because of a drug addiction. But as she was signing her name on the dotted line, she looked up and she asked our canvassers to please pray that God would allow her to live long enough so she can cast the first ballot ever in her life. But sadly to say, 2 weeks later, she passed away and she was denied that opportunity. But there are hundreds of thousands of returning citizens living in Florida that have that same yearn, that same desire to be a part of democracy. Because we know that when we're a part of a democracy, we make it more inclusive. And when we make it more inclusive, we make our democracy more vibrant. And when we have a vibrant democracy, that's good for everyone. And so we will continue to fight for every one of the 1.4 million Floridians who have any desire whatsoever to participate in our democracy, because that's good for the entire country.